The user experience, or UX, profession is built on a paradox. UX refers to the overall experience a person has when interacting with a product, especially in terms of how easy or pleasing it is to use. Designers build these products using rigid user data and behavioral psychology, yet they often evaluate them using the subjective, emotional opinions of their peers. When a team offers unstructured feedback like "make it pop" or "I don't like blue," it destroys the original data-backed intent of the design. This friction is often the result of a professional misconception. A design review is a strict milestone meeting intended for project sign-off and executive approval. A design critique, by contrast, is an iterative, collaborative evaluation that measures specific design decisions against user needs. Confusing these two meetings triggers immediate defensive posturing. The designer feels attacked, and the team's collective ego begins to overshadow the product's requirements. A critique serves as a collaborative diagnostic of the artifact's utility, moving the focus away from a courtroom defense of the designer's personal worth. Many teams believe in the myth of organic feedback, the idea that placing smart people in a room without roles will naturally produce valuable design insights. In reality, unstructured environments invite groupthink. Without a system, the loudest or most senior person in the room dictates the direction of the work. High-yield, actionable critiques require the intentional creation of engineered psychological safety. This safety relies on strict rules, uses rigid frameworks, and an objective North Star metric to guide the conversation toward the user's goals. You must build a critique machine from first principles, assembling the architecture of the meeting piece by piece to remove the volatility of human ego. Without a predefined structural framework, a critique is merely a scheduled argument waiting to happen. The first foundational piece of the blueprint is the context phase. The person sharing their work follows a core requirement: never present isolated static screens that lack a connection to the user's overall goal. Instead, the designer presents the prototype within a complete user journey flowchart. The presenter defines the exact user problem, the business KPI, a quantifiable measure of strategic success, and the strict technical constraints critics must respect. Context acts as a protective boundary line, forcing the room to focus on the immediate problem, rather than exploring infinite out-of-scope possibilities. Explicitly assigning roles at the start of the meeting prevents participants from slipping into chaotic or unhelpful behaviors. The first role is the presenter. Their job is to listen and ask clarifying questions. They must never defend the work against the group's observations. The second role belongs to the critics. They are tasked with analyzing the artifact strictly against the stated goals, deliberately setting aside their personal preferences. The recorder is the dedicated person logging actionable feedback. This frees the presenter from the distraction of taking notes, allowing them to remain fully present. Finally, the facilitator serves as the enforcer of the room's rules, translating subjective comments into objective inquiries. When everyone plays a clearly defined role, the designer's ego is cleanly separated from the artifact being examined. Despite these preparations, human nature persists. Someone in the room will eventually offer a vague, subjective opinion. To manage this, the facilitator employs a linguistic filter. The facilitator leads with questions, translating commands into inquiries about user behavior. This filter uses a three-part framework. "I like" anchors positive reinforcement to successful decisions, while "I wish" and "what if" redirect complaints into constructive explorations of alternatives. If feedback remains opinion-based, the facilitator must force the critic to tie their affirmation to a specific user persona or a usability heuristic. A usability heuristic is a general principle or rule of thumb used to evaluate the user interface of a design. Structured language strips the emotional volatility out of criticism, leaving behind only raw, actionable data for the team. A successful critique ends with a dense log of feedback blocks. The feedback log is often misinterpreted as a mandatory to-do list where every piece of input must be implemented. Instead, the designer must transition from creative mode into analytical mode to process the results objectively. The designer identifies recurring patterns and root issues within the feedback, focusing on structural flaws rather than surface-level symptoms. The designer retains the final authority to filter the room's ideas through the project's core objectives, treating the room's output as diagnostic data rather than a mandate. For a UX professional preparing to facilitate their first session, following a precise 5-point checklist ensures a flawless outcome. Check 1. Verify that the project context, exact user goals, and technical constraints are established before showing any design work. Check 2. Verify that the 4 key roles, presenter, facilitator, critics, and recorder, are explicitly assigned. Check 3. Ensure the facilitator is actively translating subjective opinions into objective, goal-oriented questions. Check 4. Confirm that the room is strictly adhering to the I like, I wish, what if framework. Check 5. Guarantee the session ends with a documented list of specific, actionable next steps, clearly tied to owners and deadlines. Design is ultimately the art of being wrong safely. Mastering the engineered critique is how a team accelerates the iterative loop and hardens the utility of their work.